Welcome back to This Keen Life. My name's Melissa, and today we're in the kitchen cooking chicken tortilla soup. It's one of my family's favorites. Again, we have a lot of favorites, but it's one that is really easy go-to for me, and I want to just share that with you now. First, I slice up 4 Anaheim peppers and 4 jalapeno peppers. Throw those in the crock pot. When slicing up jalapenos, I always try to remember not to touch the peppers themselves too much because I have been known to rub my face, and I have a 14-month-old. So last thing I want to do is rub her face either, but it burns pretty bad. I think after making this, I ended up rubbing my nose, and my nose burned for a couple hours, which was pretty hilarious because I know better and I've been making this dish for a very long time. So just remember to be very careful and either don't touch the peppers or use gloves or don't rub your face after. After slicing up the peppers, I either chop up about 4 to 5 fresh tomatoes. I didn't have any out of the garden yet, so I just used canned tomato, and that's fine too. I used diced. You can use crushed or whatever you happen to have. And then dice up an onion and add that into the crock pot. And now for the view in the crock pot, we've got our Anaheim, our jalapeno, our onion, our canned tomato, and a healthy scoop of garlic, probably about a tablespoon or so. I measure it with my heart most times when it comes to cooking this. So whatever you prefer, if you like the flavor of garlic, add more. If you don't, you can add less or omit it. I really like it, so I add quite a bit. This is chicken bouillon. Again, I wasn't measuring that. The end result here is going to be nearly 2 gallons of soup. I think this is it's a 7-quart crock pot. So keep that in mind. We're flavoring nearly 2 gallons of food. And then I added some cumin in there, about a tablespoon. And here is black pepper, about 2 teaspoons. And then chicken, you can add in, again, as much as you want. I've done as little as 3 breasts and as much as 6, depending on how many people I'm trying to feed. And I can always add more broth to it to stretch it a little bit further. But this particular time I made it with 6. And then add in the water. So that was about a gallon of water for my 6-quart crock pot. I really like this crock pot because the lid locks down, so I can travel with it or just set it on the counter and know that if anyone bumps into it or I have to slide it to a different area, it's not likely to spill. And now we're going to make my cilantro lime rice. This was inspired originally by Chipotle. And I know it's not quite the same, but we start with rinsed rice as much as you want. I'm just getting the rinsed rice off the side there so it all cooks evenly. And then you fill the water to the appropriate level. Here is my rice cooker. If you're using a pot on the stove, it's that 1-to-2 ratio. 1 cup of rice for 2 cups of water. And then a bay leaf, and close it. And I set it to cook. And either while the rice is cooking or after it's done. My rice cooker keeps it warm for me so I don't have to worry about it burning or anything along those lines. But I chop up one bunch of cilantro. Then I'll be adding a little bit of oil, some salt, and the juice of a lemon and a lime into a bowl. And then toss that with the rice to give it the cilantro lime rice flavor. I really should have put a paper towel or a wet paper towel or a wet towel underneath the cutting board because this particular day it was sliding all over the place. So here I'm adding about a quarter cup of olive oil to a third of a cup. And this was for 3 cups of rice. About a pinch or so of salt, not a whole lot, just add a little bit of seasoning to it. And if you're someone who has that cilantro soap gene and you don't like the taste, you don't have to include it. I've made it without for friends or family that don't prefer the taste of cilantro. And then just have it as a garnish on the side that you can add to the soup for anyone that does want it. But I like adding it into the rice because then I don't have to worry about accidentally forgetting it. And then we're adding the juice of 1 lime and 1 lemon. And it can be more or less depending on your preference. My son tried to help me. He didn't quite have the hand strength, but he'll get there. I mean, he's only 8, so one day he'll have the strength to squeeze the lemons and limes for me. I'm a really big proponent of everyone should learn how to cook. So I start them young with helping in the kitchen and teaching them, especially family favorites, so they know how to make them as they get older, when they're ready to move out, and everyone knows how to cook their own meals. So now we're adding the rice to the oil, lime and lemon juice, salt, and cilantro. And I usually toss it through about halfway full or half of the rice is in to make sure that it's evenly distributed and we don't end up with just a pocket of flavored rice. Otherwise, it's not so fun. It's more of a concern with the larger amount of rice. I get only 2 to 3 cups here, so it's not that big of a worry. But when I've made big batches of like 7 cups of rice and I have to separate it out between 2 bowls, it becomes more of an issue. And toss it through. Make sure to break up any clumps of rice so that all of the seasoning and flavoring is distributed. And now that's ready to add to your soup. And you don't have to just use it exclusively for tortilla soup. You can use it for whatever you want. So after it's cooked on low for about 6 to 8 hours or high 4 to 6 hours, I found low is actually better. The flavor distributes better, and it comes out more evenly flavored, and the family prefers the flavor. We shred it usually with 2 forks. I know sometimes the stand mixer or the hand mixer attachment may make it faster, but I actually prefer doing it this way because I don't have to worry about cleaning something else except for maybe a couple of forks. So we shred that all up and then we'll add it back into the soup. And give it a good toss through to make sure we don't end up with just all the meat on top and vegetables on the bottom. So stir it up a bit before we get ready to serve it. And you can serve it at that point or let it sit longer. I think at this point I just made sure it was on low because we had a little bit to wait before dinner. But I also really love the warm feature of my crock pot, and when something's done cooking, just leave it on warm and I don't have to stress about it. And here I am cutting up some avocado because we usually serve it with avocado, cheese, and cabbage and rice. We use cabbage in place of rice for some of us. I like to use both cabbage and rice because it adds a little bit more of a crunch to it, as well as limiting the amount of white carbs that I end up consuming. But I still really like the flavor of the rice. So just slice the avocado up as you prefer, and then we scoop it in on top. We do the layer of rice and cabbage, the soup, cheese, and then avocado. And if you had set aside any cilantro, you could sprinkle that on top. And I feel like this is something that I do at least once or twice a week, is shred a head of cabbage in my food processor. I love this food processor. I think it was a Christmas present, but I've probably talked about it several times. So forgive me, but I do really love it. And now that we've shredded it, we're going to move it into a container because won't eat quite one whole head of cabbage. But like I said, we do this about twice a week. So we go through it pretty quick. In the fridge, I think that's one of my larger storage containers. So we just transfer it over and just keep it in the fridge for each meal that we use it. And afterwards, we're going to shred up the cheese. I do give it a rinse and a wipe out because otherwise there ends up a little bit of excess liquid and that creates a weird texture on the cheese. So I rinse it and then dry it out before I shred the cheese. And here we're going to shred up a 2 block of Colby Jack cheese. I slice it into 6 pieces before I shred it, and then throw it in the food processor to shred after I fight with the packaging. In both the cabbage and the cheese, this is real time with how fast that food processor goes through the shredding process, which is amazing. I love it. I actually just got a new attachment that I need to try out for dicing. We'll see how much time that can save me when it comes to some of my food prep days. And you can't see the top, but I don't ever stick my fingers quite beyond the top. I do use the pusher that comes with it anytime that we get below the top of the chute. And just like with the shredded cabbage, I'm moving that over to a storage container because there's no way we're going to eat that all today. And then it's easier to plate or bowl, in this case, bowl it up. So now we have all of our condiments, if you will, for our tortilla soup. And for this particular bowl, I'm starting with the rice and then the cabbage, then the soup, then the cheese and avocado. And then I have sliced lemon and lime in that little container on top with the purple lid, as some of my family prefers to be able to add a squeeze of fresh lemon or lime into their soup. I'm actually really excited to be able to make this one from plants out of my garden. So hopefully I'll be able to harvest some of the jalapeños and Anaheims and tomato directly from my garden and be able to throw it straight in the crock pot. I'm really excited for that. But this is a complete bowl of tortilla soup. You can serve it with lemon and lime on the side, tortilla chips, of course, because otherwise it wouldn't be tortilla soup. I just don't like them personally in the soup because they get mushy after a while. So I usually have them on the side in a bowl, and you can either dip the soup out or eat it bite at a time and enjoy. But I just wanted to share this soup, tortilla soup, with you. And I hope you give it a try and share if you like it or any other thoughts or feedback you have. Thank you. Have a good one.